Good day, Irene Ratliff. I wanted to say that I wanted to have a conversation to you or with you about membership. Initially, membership is good, especially when you're participating with an organization, an activity. Participation is one of the key things to make things and to help other organizations or even people efforts. That's one of the things that I was doing early on was I was participating with a lot of community events. Not that it became so many of them. The thing was is that yes, I was just out there participating, and yes, I wanted those things in return. I think that some of the things that I was initially initiating was BB&D. I am still communicating, or I am communicating BB&D, which is business building and development. But membership is there's a lot of organizations that focus on memberships, and then you have memberships, and you also have shareholders. So we saw a movie. What was the name of that movie? I think it was with Eddie Murphy, and they had one share. And with that one share, they thought that they was able to have a whole lot of say about here it is that multi-billion-dollar business. The thing is, though, is when you have memberships, now you're invited to a lot of different places that you may not be invited to if you did not have membership. Okay, so when you start looking at membership, it becomes an inclusive aspect of you participating with a lot of the organizations activities and maybe some of the training. Now I've gone to some places they wanted to charge the members X amount of dollars, and they wanted maybe even charge for some of the classes. So at that point, it seemed a little unfair when you start looking at you wanting to participate with something and then readily is even asking you for more money. Matter of fact, I'm writing people and I'm like, well, they should have different prices for individuals, nonprofits, for businesses, and then some of them, when you're looking at membership, they're asking you about how much money and stuff that you get. You know what I mean? So at that point, you would think that yes, readily, that that inclusion to say community at large would be there. But it's for some of them, it's not. Matter of fact, we had understood this some years ago when the green carpet was laid out. They were using money as the main factor to why some people were not involved. There were people who were traveling, I mean, rich people. They would go to a certain place, and then yet somebody said they were watching them and they were doing this. And, I have the money, and, you'll see people flossing their dollars. Oh, I'm like, here it is, these kind of people. And they had their money, and they say, well, listen, we got the money to pay for this. You understand? So, we saw this during, let's say, the conversation of inclusion during the 60s. And I had went to this meeting, and the meeting was talking about the 60s and the 60s or the inclusion during the 1960s, and the talk about segregation and the inclusion and diversity about one subject and another. Okay, so I was like, well, what do you mean? I'm just listening, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I'm not going into that. That's another subject, okay? But the point that I'm making is during that time, during the 60s, we saw where people were saying, okay, well, we want to do business here. Okay, well, we want to do business here. Right? So what happened is that the United States government, after all that aftermath, they gave businesses the right to choose who they want to do business with. On the other hand, they was talking about civil rights. If you go to some place, you'll see here it is the right the right to refuse service. That's what happened after the 60s. People were given that right. Matter of fact, we saw a little bit of that, even though from that moment forward, we saw where not only were people being American people who were speaking English, but then they were excluded for certain jobs if you didn't speak Spanish. Okay, so the power of inclusion to say, okay, well now we're going to create a Rosetta Stone, and the Rosetta Stone is English and Spanish. But at that time, during the 60s, people were doing the sit-ins, they were having their tea, they were having their coffee or whatever, and then yet here it is, we end up getting a Starbucks conversation. You understand? So now you're looking at not only how you're spending your money, but then how are all these things tied into, here it is, that point. That point to talk about getting service and to do business. Sometimes it doesn't, you, one moment, really, collectively, one moment, really, let's tell the truth. One moment, let's look at it. And that one moment went many places. I ain't gonna fib you, honey. That own, old, and I don't know. It just went many, many places. Okay. So now when you start talking about a business that want to do business, and it's not saying it's a product, but maybe talking about, here it is, chick, then at that point when you're looking at membership at these different places, now you asking for membership or you want to be included so that you can be in the right places to make the right conversations and to submit the right documents. You understand where I'm coming from? But what was going on at that time with all those sit-ins on those businesses, why was those people, it was not a color. It was not color alone. Your money, I mean, and we had people complaining, okay? You was going, I was like, well, why would that person want to spend, matter of fact, why would that person want to spend $500 on a purse? No, seriously, that L. When you were Roman, honey. Well, what would they want? Because they had the money to spend that $500 and they wanted to spend that $500 there. I may not be in agreement with them wanting to spend that $500, but they felt like with their money, which they would be, which it was being collected by, here it is, the other masses, they wanted to spend their money wherever they wanted to spend their money. You understand? So it was like, okay, even though it seemed like it was big ticket, they were making moves for, here it is, the general population. I may not have come from your circle, or here it is, your class, but the thing is that I have the money to spend my money where I want to spend it. The next thing too is that we just recently had some stories on women and men who were playing golf. And they're like, well, we're members. And even if they weren't members, they have reserved the space. And so it has something to do with money. You want to move into another neighborhood? Boy, I ain't gonna fib you. I'm reading up the stuff for even housing. I'm just surprised at so much of the racism for them to talk about one thing or the other. No, I'm not surprised, but I'm just sharing it with you. About how people moved or how other people moved in and all this other kind of stuff, and here it is how we may be but this stuff is for real. Membership, oh yes, I mean, anyway, these people were at this golf course, and they wanted to say that they didn't belong there, and the woman like, well, we done paid our money, we try to play golf and everything. When you go to, here it is, it's surprisingly some places, I'm telling you, I don't care, they'd be thinking, oh, okay, well, it should be one color, it should be another color. And then I'm saying, well, when we start talking about all this diplomacy and all this democracy in different places, what does it mean? It doesn't make any sense. But it does make sense because it equates. And so that's just a couple of other things, that's just a couple of examples that maybe, we were like, okay, well, why they want to spend their money? They ain't spending their money over here. And yet we've had thousands of thoughts, many, many, many of us. And so why do you think all the people who become superstars and stuff like that don't come back and contribute to their neighborhood? Well, surprisingly, we have a lot of those services. They want to say that everybody just somewhat settled what's being on government services. But that's not true. And then yes, when we start thinking about, here it is, the social good and the public good and all that kind of thing, I guess that maybe perhaps they would say, well, listen, we're doing the greater good. As I said already before to you, There's a lot of people who are organized and doing a whole lot of different stuff. And some people don't even have memberships. But your donations work. You know that you had donated some money, you can always write it off a tax write off. Your participation at any of those activities, or matter of fact, even if they send you an email and say, well, listen, we're having a meeting, you're invited. You know that your donation dollar worked. Matter of fact, there is a role that here, matter of fact, I was at this place and they sent me, I broke it down. I was sending, no, I'm just going to tell you the truth, maybe about $10 a month. But for those $10 a month that I was sending to them, they in turn was writing. At the end of the year, they sent me, here it is, my tally, and said, well, listen, you can use this right here as your tax write-off. Now, tax write-offs for $100. I don't have to go into the IRS and tell you about, here it is, you getting benefits for your $100. But the thing is that you donated. You know what I'm saying? I'm not quite sure really how all those numbers in itself become, hey, I'm really donating to this organization X amount of dollars, and it makes that much of a difference. These people say, well, listen, Irene, you pay us X amount of dollars in any donation you get. And they said, well, let me go ahead and send you my money because I'm going to be asking for donations. But if we're asking different people, $5, I give you my TIN number and everything. The thing is that when you start looking at the IRS and they be at a tax write-off and all that kind of stuff, then maybe people need to inquire how much they actually need to give for it to be a substantial difference in their taxes. Membership. Now we can think about, what does it mean? Matter of fact, I still get newsletters from this women's group, and I had mentioned to you that I had went to DC, so I was like, well, let me go ahead and maximize my time and stuff like that. And I had complaints. I was complaining about the government, and the thing was that when I got there, the lady was kind, but they didn't have the resources to care for their women. Their thing was, well, listen, we're politically, or our focus is on policies. Where when we begin to look at, here it is, let's just say a lot of the women outside their argument to talk about men, or outside the right to talk about their right to choose. It was just like, okay, well, one moment, if somebody has a complaint and they want to talk about it, they didn't have that thoroughfare for them like that. Now, working within their structure, you would think that readily they would have been able to think about all their programs that they would have available to help women. And then there you go again. There's that bottom. There's a lot of social services. Really, it is. Matter of fact, here it is, that $20. All right, Miss Ratliff, I apologize, but that's all we can do. But then yet you gave your money. Understanding that different organizations have different structures. It's sad, but true. When you start looking at, here it is, the social services, and people say, well, listen, the government pays me X amount of dollars. It's because they're paying you those services because they already know the economic structure. There's billions of dollars or billions of tax dollars that yet are not used, and this information is already shared to us publicly. So anyway, I go there. That's what happened, and it wasn't that I wanted to rule it out. However, I was presenting them information, which I do now every now and again, on, here it is, some of the things that we can do. I think at the time they were doing a lot of male bashing, and I was just like, don't you think it's unfair for us to be a woman group and talk about male bashing? Matter of fact, do you think that maybe we should be a lot more inclusive to talk about, mind our mental? So, I was just like, I wasn't for all the male bashing. It was really domestic. You know what I'm saying? And so as I was presenting that information to them, I don't know if they understood it or not, but I don't hear all the male bashing as I was hearing it before. I was like, good Lord, we're a woman organization. What are we doing all that male bashing for? Where the men at? We love men. Say society. Anyway, um, that was my little experience there. So when you begin, like I said, people are more than welcome to donate. Please, Street Meat Company. You can find Street Meat Company on PayPal, PayPal.com Street Meat Company. There's also the website www.streetmeatcompany.org. Street Meat MEET Company.org. Okay, and like I said, it wasn't so much about. That's the thing that I want to generate is those conversations to talk about BB&D, because now that's given us an opportunity to not only invest, and the world is big, I ain't gonna fib to you. So when you start looking at the inclusion of our ideas, the inclusion of one thing or the other, oh, the all factor. This is the reason why the outline, and here it is. What is it that we're trying to work on? It just becomes very clear every day when I'm sitting here, when they say, oh, Irene, you did this. Oh, you did this. And I look, I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. Okay, that became a focus for them. I'm like, okay, but what's going on here? What? Those things became more important outside of here it is that work. I realized that the first thing is here it is Street Meat Company's business membership. Okay, so when we start looking at donations and you start looking at membership, a lot of the information you will find on social media. For the website, the reason why the website may not be as, let's say, as detailed as you may find a lot of other, let's say, news magazines or news online, online magazines or newspapers, or you could go to, let's say, the Heritage, and you'll see where you can purchase different books and so. It's just not full that way. The reason why is because once we win something, now we know that we could be inclusive to say, well, these are the things that we're working on. You understand? Other than that, one moment. Other than that, this is the social aspect of it is working on those events. Okay, and so us raising money is interesting. Us raising money is quintessential to our operation. And I had a proposal, and one of the questions asked, well, how would you know that, or how would you follow your tracking record or your task or whatever? I said by donations, and then yet us being able to expand our work, to not only expand her work, but to also participate, as a functioning organization that there's their chick, that's their Kwanzaa, that's their 4th of July, that is there for BB&D. All these things become very important to hear it as our movement and the conversations. Being able and having the opportunity to win such awards, to hire people and to train them. Matter of fact, one of the things to talk about capacity building. The capacity building has something to do with helping people understand how important their time is to volunteer. Yes. And I had mentioned there is an organization that help you to volunteer or to teach people. And then I just kind of went into that conversation about volunteering. I will put that on another video. Volunteer. Okay, so membership for Street Meat Company, your donation dollars is a benefit. Like I said, I can provide the EIN number for people who want to say that they have donated to Street Meat Company. But trust and know, the IRS and Irene Ratliff, we know. Somebody, you can't be lying on here. There's Irene Ratliff, Street Meat Company, EIN number. That part I do know. And I think that here it is, all those work ethics and codes and conduct and all that. We all know. And that would be the truth. However, that is public information. Street Meat Company. You will find us in Georgia and California, okay? Street Meat Company. Please donate. Again, there's the website. There's also PayPal.com. And, at one time, because I'm introducing Street Meat Company in my neighborhood where I wanted to do 4th of July, which is in Atlanta, Georgia, I had the account number on there. Yes, the account number was on there, okay? And I said, well, this is our community account. When we start actually making that kind of bread, I guess we'd be able to separate, here it is one account from the other, but it was just a general account, and I still have that account. People are more than welcome to donate and send. With this one, they was actually able to go to the bank and deposit the money. It wasn't PayPal, it wasn't the website, However, it was available to them. So the reason, again, in regards to membership, let's say, there is a way to generate resources to say, well, okay, well, this is how we want to raise money. It is with those two events is an attachment to Street Meat Company. It is. Okay, because both of them talk about one thing or the other. And, that thought, I'm like, okay, well, we could talk about all them different costs and casts. Street Meat Company, www.streetmeatcompany.org. There is also streetmeat.biz, but I don't know how well you'll probably get to that. I was just trying to plug into that, and I contacted the web designer and everything. But streetmeatcompany.org, streetmeat.biz, paypal.com, Street Meat Company. Thanks. Membership, donations.